Okay, I'm doing some work with platform events and I'm having an error when a non-system administrator uses this method. So I have rebuilt this in my developer org so I can really try and replicate it in another org and make sure it's not something I've just done in the setup. So this is the flow and it's sort of similar to what I've got. It's got similar elements. Basically, I am just passing in a record ID. I've just got a notification here that is the new customer notification type thing, where to do that you've got to set the recipients to and the recipients is a collection variable. So you've got to first of all get the user ID to add to the collection variable, So the very first thing we do is just set that collection variable to have the recipient IDs, which is only one, which is the current user. And then we can use the new custom notification. Remember, you have to do a SQL query to find out what that notification type ID is. Just Google that one. And we've got a found account record ID for var method. So I'm passing in the var method in the flow URL also. And I've just got a title and the recipients, and I've got the target, which is the record ID that the flow is coming from. And then I've got a pause element. And the pause element is waiting, it just waits, no conditions, for a resume event of a platform event message is received. So this is the crux of this. I've got an external system that updates the record, the exact record that I'm calling the flow on. So I'm calling a flow, it goes out to the external system does stuff, and it's going to update my record. And I want the flow to continue on after the record has been updated, and actually what I want is a notification to pop up. And so here I've done two different methods, a notification or a chatter, and so I've just done a decision here which method based on the variable I'm passing in am I going to do. Am I going to do a notification, which is just a notification after the platform event. And so you'll notice under the platform event resume event, I've done a output variable of the record collection for the platform event record, so that I can grab the replay ID of the platform event so that I can just see exactly which platform event it was. And it's just going to the recipients, and it's again the target is the record ID, and if it's a chatter post, it's just doing a simple chatter post to that record ID. So it's a very simple method, but the idea is it's doing something in the flow, it's getting a record, doing something, and then it's going to wait until a platform event is received on that record, and the platform event has to be unique. So the resume event is on that record, and I've got a string. In my case, I've got a method what was done on the external system, but I've just got a string here, say resume. So to test out my external system, because the external system is coming via the API, just a standard API, I am just using the workbench to create using the REST Explorer just to do a post to the platform event. And I'm passing the record ID. I think I found it has to be 15 characters, but I'm not 100% sure about that, but it does work. And I'm just passing in the string of resume. So that's the most simplest JSON that you could pass in. So let's just have a look at our platform event just so you can see how simple it is. Platform events. There's only one platform event in my dev org, and it's deployed, and it has just got a record ID of a text 20 and a string of text 20. That's all there is to it. And you can see the last one, the latest one that it ran. That's the replay ID of the latest one that it ran. Okay, so I've got a record here called Bunnings. I've got some chatter posts. So each time that's the other thing I've got. So let's have a look at that. Process Builder. This is a new feature in, I believe, Winter 20, but it's pretty cool. So you can do, let's just go back. you can do a process that is triggered, in inverted commas, by a platform event. Okay, so that's process type. When you go new, you choose a platform event message is received. Now, there is some documentation that says there is no guarantee of the order that it's received in. It could hit the platform event or the flow, because we're waiting for the receipt of the platform event from both of those records. So I wouldn't do this in production, but I've just got this as a sort of belt and braces type testing, just to make sure that I am receiving that platform event when I hit the go button on the workbench. So here I've got, now this bit's a little bit confusing, so have a look at the great post that's in the Salesforce admins that Shannon Hale wrote around how to use this. It is basically, you've just got to get a way of uniquely identifying that message that's coming in. So I've just linked it to the user, and then every single time, no matter what, all conditions, no criteria, I am just posting a chatter to the user with this values showing the replay, the string, and the record ID. Okay, so that's all of the setup. And then I've got so let's go to my object manager for account as the last bit of the setup, and under buttons. And I've got two buttons, one for test PE flow notification and one for test PE flow chatter. And they are just simply calling the flow via a URL, passing in the record ID for the account ID and the method, the var method of notification. Remembering that that doesn't have quotation marks. I got that wrong in the first place. And I've got one for chatter, right? So that's going to go through the two versions of the flow. Again, this is not the way you would set it up as standard, but this is just trying to replicate what my flow is doing. So my flow is a screen flow that calls a subflow, which is an auto launch flow, because to have platform events, to have pause elements in your flow, it has to be an auto launch flow. So unfortunately then the auto launch flow just has this, sort of annoying message, but I'm just replicating that. So we'll see that message when we run it. Okay, so I've got my chatter here, I've got my details here, and I've got my two buttons over here. So I'm going to test my PE flow notification. And this is this annoying message that happens. But what I've got when I got the screen flow, it sort of at least happens in the middle of the screen. So it's not too bad. So what have we had happen? We've got a notification here where that's the one that's happening before. Just as soon as I get the records, it's doing a notification telling me what it's done. So it's found the account. See here, it's only got the 15 characters. So that's why I thought that I needed to do that on my platform event for method notification. Now that flow is just going to sit there until I receive a platform event. That flow is just going to sit there in the paused flow interviews. So let's replicate the external system coming in with the platform event. So I'm just going to click that, and it creates the platform event. Remember, you can't do SQL queries on platform events, but this ability to just do the trigger or the process trigger on platform event is great. So let's just have a look at our chatter. Remember, our last replay ID was 18, and so here's our replay ID of 19. And we have now got the end of the flow, which is notification after platform event, replay ID 19. So that is the whole flow, okay? And that completely works perfectly. So again, the scenario is I click the button, a screen flow pops up, you fill in some more extra details, it goes off to an external system. The external system does something, and then the external system comes back, updates the record via the API. I have got a process builder that then says, well, when that gets updated, then fire off a platform event. And so then the flow is going to resume after that platform event is fired, and then give me a notification. Now, I could do a notification, I could do other flow items, anything. At the moment, I'm just doing a notification, just simply to let the users know, give the user some indication that external system has done something. Okay, so I'm going to pause here now, and I'm going to log in as a non-system administrator user. Now, just clarifying, as a system administrator user, I have done nothing to permissions or nothing to anything. But what I believe is that, and I'm going to do it now, is on my profile, and again, you can do it on permission sets if you want. So my profile for standard user, I'm going to go to object settings. I'm going to go test. And I'm going to give that standard user permissions for that. Oh, why can't I give that permissions for that flow? Oh, sorry, for that object. That is interesting. Okay. Oh, because that's why. That is why you can't modify a standard profile. I have not used standard profiles in so long that I just got very confused about that. Okay, let's try that. And then the other permission that I have to give is under system settings. Okay. Really hate how you have to do this. Create and edit flows. No, we want run flows. Okay, now remembering in Winter 20 there's a new feature where you can allow users to run individual flows, which you set up in the flow screen. Now, and the other thing that I have got turned on in my org is that the flows run in lightning mode, but I'm just going to leave that off for now because it's going to be something I will want to test a bit later. Okay, so I'm going to pause now and I'm going to log in as I'm going to first of all assign this standard client profile to my other user, and then I'm going to log in as that user, and we're going to try this whole process again and see if we can break it. Okay, I am really stuck now. So I have logged in as my user, which is called guest admin. That user has access to the platform events, the platform event that I've created. That user can get notifications. That user has full access, modify all, view all on accounts, and that user cannot run this flow. So let's just see if I do that. Test PE flow chatter, I get insufficient privileges. Test PE flow notification, I get insufficient privileges. So what I've done is, so I'm in an incognito window there. So what I've done is I've created, so that was my PE, platform event flow. Even took out the notification to see if that would work, see if it was a notification issue. That was that one. So what I've done is created a new flow called test flow, where I've taken out the first notification and the pause. Okay, that's the only thing I've taken out. I've still got a notification in there, and I've got still exactly the same decision. I have got exactly the same button structure. So test flow, passing in the var method of notification, and if I again go back to my user and I do test flow. The flow finishes. I go back to accounts and I get my notification. I go to debug logs for that user, and I'm not seeing anything because if I do just the test flow, the one that works, it's saying it's got the flow interview. And if I'm doing the test flow PE, it's just got exactly the same stuff in there. It doesn't say that there's anything going on. So I'm a bit stuck. I have been through all sorts of help documents. I cannot find anything that says what the permissions are required to use a pause. Look, it looks like it's the pause. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to just pause one more thing and we'll try one more thing. Okay, so now I have created a flow that has exactly the same. All I did was copy it and just change the pause. So now I have a pause condition with a resume event of a specified time, which is the flow current date time with an offset of 0 hours. So really all that does is just creates a new transaction and continues on. So that is active, and I have now made that my test time as my custom button. And so let's try logging in as our user. So I'm in my user record, and we should have test time. No, we're going to have to refresh. Okay, so let's make sure that's on the page. So to test time. I didn't know that if you changed a URL or changed a button link, it would take it off the page. But anyway, okay, so we'll go back to there. We'll refresh our page. And we'll do test time. The flow interview is now waiting. It will resume in background later, but remember it's going to wait 0 hours. And so that is, it could be any time. So there it is. It's done. Okay, so that proves it, that it is only something to do with a flow that has a pause element with a resume event of a platform event. But yet they have read access to that platform event. So what do they not have access to? I'm at a loss. If you can help me, that would be great.